Welcome to the HRIS Careers Podcast with your host, Troy Wallace, a podcast for human resources information systems professionals to help you elevate your HRIS career. We always say no one gets into HRIS on purpose, but it sure is interesting to find out how they did. We interview your HRIS peers to find out how they got tricked into the industry and what lessons and tools they use to progress their careers along the way. We discuss industry trends, AI, and even talk candidly about all the most popular HRIS platforms. Just think of it as the closest bar just outside the entrance of your favorite HR technology conference. Now you get it. Welcome in.
The top one fear of every CEO or CHRO who wants to implement Human is, what would the people say if I let it open? What do they put? What do they write? So what I always tell them is you can bring it in front of customers, get feedback, listen to your customers, serve them. We have more than 60 open job positions. We are hiring everything. We are hiring engineers, salespeople, people from partnership, alliances, marketing.
Welcome to the HRIS Careers Podcast, recording live as usual in our beautiful studios in downtown Omaha, Nebraska. More importantly, our guest today is hailing from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Anyone who's read Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, likely fantasizes like I do about living there and learning to tango, but I digress. Today, we have an excellent interview with Nico Benezon, co-founder of Humand.co. It's HUMAND.co. He and his co-founder were in the Y Combinator class of 22. For those that are not aware of Y Combinator, it is one of the most prestigious entrepreneurial incubators in the country. And they were solving the problem of what they call the undesked employees. And we hit on that a lot in the episode. So here are 3 gigantic things that you're going to learn. So number 1. How is Humand.co solving for the non-desk workers? Number 2. How Humand is giving current Facebook workplace users a lifeline now that Meta has decided to sunset that product. And number 3. How did Nico and his co-founder decide to tackle this HR problem in the first place? Also, why it took them 3 tries to get accepted into Y Combinator. I want you to make sure and check out the lightning round as usual. It should be around the 28-minute mark. Nico slips in a very telling statement about the big things that he thinks Humand can be. If you pick it out, let me know in the comments on YouTube. Now, if you do go over to YouTube, I show a little bit of the Humand software. They were able to set me up with a little demo account. That was pretty cool to use. Speaking of, if you listen and you're interested in getting your own demo account or having them set up a digital community for you to play around with, you can go to HRISCareers.com/Humand. That's HUMAND. And there'll be a little form there or some way for you to sign up to get one of those set up for yourself or for your company. This is really amazing what he and his co-founder have been able to do in 3 short years. They are pretty young guys. Just a real joy to have a conversation with him. So please enjoy this inspirational, educational, and wide-ranging interview with Nico Benezon. Nico Benezon, I really appreciate you being on the HRIS Careers Podcast. So we were talking a little bit before I hit record, and there are so many things that I think are going to be interesting to people that are in the HRIS industry. You might have to call timeout or stop me if I'm going too far. I know we only have you for an hour. What I wanted to start on is, I'll have done your introduction, so people have already heard that before we started the podcast. But I wanted to pull something specific from another podcast. So, I had heard you speaking on the Founder's Voyage podcast, and I think it was maybe 2 years ago or so. And you talked about Humand, your software company, solving the problem of turning blue-collar workers into knowledge workers. Can we start talking about that a little bit?
Amazing. First of all, thank you a lot, Troy, for having me here. It's a pleasure to talk to you and your audience. What we mean basically by turning blue-collar workers into knowledge workers is, first of all, what differentiates a blue-collar worker, or we prefer to call them non-desk workers now, what differentiates a non-desk worker into a knowledge worker? Basically, it's digitalization, access to information, if they have a company email or not, and what devices do they use and what technology for work. Basically, a knowledge worker is usually a person in an office with a PC in front of them when they work. They have a company email and they are digitized. If you go for a non-desk worker, they work in a plant, in a factory, in a retail store, in a hospital. They are on the move, on the field, and they are usually not digitized. They usually don't have a company email. They don't have a PC in front of them when they work. And usually the only thing they have is a mobile phone. So imagine all the processes, especially all the HR processes that an employee have to do in the company, that they are very similar between a knowledge worker and a non-desk worker. They have to request time off. They have to communicate with their peers and their managers. They have to perform a performance review. They have to perform training. They have to do the onboarding. They have to see their benefits and request them. So they have to check their pay stub, for example. They have to do a lot of things. But because the non-desk workers, they don't have a company email, they don't have a PC in front of them when they work, they are on the move, those processes and interactions that they have to do with the company are do it in a complete different way, in a non-digitized way, in a non-ideal way. So what we do at Human is we leverage that every non-desk worker have a mobile phone in their hand to be able to digitize all these processes and interactions with the company. So we bring all the technology and digitalization that knowledge workers has into the world of non-desk workers by having an all-in-one app for internal communication and HR that connects 100% of the company. And a knowledge worker can request time off, can interact with their peers, can fill a form, fill a server, perform training, do the onboarding the same way a knowledge workers historically did.
The reason that really resonated with me is I have held some HRIS positions with, I would say, with a lot of non-desk things. So in retail, and then I worked for a company called RSC Equipment Rental, which is now part of United Rentals, and we had that issue. And this was probably 2007, 2009, that era, and everybody's just like, nope, there's nothing we can do. Like, we can't digitize everything. We can't have electronic, applicant tracking. We can't have any of these things because it's too big of a pain, and we have so many people that don't use it. Now, obviously, things have changed over, 15 plus years. But how did you recognize that as a need, at least enough to create a whole software company around it? Like, was there one particular moment? Or was it a series of things that you were thinking about? Like, how did you say, okay, that's the problem I want to go solve?
Well, basically, the need was so obvious in the market that basically the problem found us. We were not thinking about what we can build. We were working and we were engaging with ArcelorMittal, one of the biggest steel producers in the world. Actually, before that, we were working in an internal communication tool for organizations. We present that tool in different competitions like the JP Morgan Code for Good. We won that competition with this tool. We got press releases, like basically showcasing our tool for internal communication inside companies. And the CHRO of ArcelorMittal, one of the biggest steel producers in the world, present in many different countries, called us and told us, hey, I found your tool. We have a big problem inside ArcelorMittal. We can't communicate digitally with our non-desk workers in the plants because we don't give them company email because it's very expensive. We have to put billboards on the wall. They have to walk into an HR office. They have to stop working, go to an HR office, fill a paper form, then come back to work, and then come back to see the status. We have to perform in-person trainings. The onboarding is a little bit in person, a little bit via text message, a little bit with paper forms. We don't have an app like I saw you have to interact with this non-desk worker. So then we start working with ArcelorMittal, our big first customer. We were working only with them for over 1 year, perfecting the product, developing new modules, understanding the problem deeply. And then we launched our product into the market. And the market, like the need was already there. There are plenty of tools solving this problem. But we were the most mobile friendly and we were the most complete solution. We have a lot of time off apps, a lot of intranet only apps, but there are very few that connect all the HR processes with the internal communication, one in a very friendly app that connects 100% of the workforce. So that's how the problem found us, how we started with our first big customer and started growing our tool.
I'm going to do this is really bad for a video production, but you guys were gracious enough to give me like a demo account. And so I was messing around with that. So, if you guys will allow me, if you're listening to this, you may want to go to YouTube, to see some of this. So I'm going to show it up on my screen. So I was able to pull it up and you were able to plug in on some of my company information. That was cool. I was able to interact, and it's a lot like Facebook, from what I can tell. And I just messed around with it. And there's a ton of different apps on there that I saw. So during the course of the podcast, if you want to go over to YouTube, I may stream a little. It's not a demo, but just some core functionality, if that's all right with Nico and his group. But yeah, it was pretty slick. And I'm getting ahead of myself. But here's what HRIS professionals want to know. If we come to you, or a company comes to you and they say, we like everything we see, we want it, we want to put it in, what kind of a headache does that cause me as the HRIS manager or director as far as implementation? So what does a project look like? How many weeks? What kind of connections do you need to make to the HRIS system? Like high level, what does that look like?
Amazing. Well, that's a question we get a lot. Human is very easy to install. We are talking about, depend on the size of the company, right? It's not the same deploying to 10,000 employees than deploying to 100 employees. Very different. But we are talking the average, it's between 4 and 6 weeks of implementation from start to launch to the employees. So very easy to do. Usually the project, we assign 4 people, one a project manager for implementation, one customer success that gives best practices and data on how to do it. We give 1 support people and 1 person for integrations from IT team. So we connect with a lot of different systems, SAP, Oracle, PeopleSoft, Workday. We connect with a lot of different systems to bring the data the company already used and have it available in our system. We already have the connectors. We have our public API to do that work. But it's very, very seamlessly, and we guide our customers step by step on how to do a successful launch.
Okay, so let's say that somebody just wants, I'm going to call it the social media or the Facebook looking things. We're not talking about, because I get it, right? If you're going to start bringing in payroll information and display payroll information, and that can get a little more complicated, and that may be a little bigger. But let's just talk basics. Hey, Nico, we want to get up and running on just the kind of the social sharing aspects of the product. Is that just, we need to push you our personal information and user information and we're up and running?
Exactly. If you want to do a deployment very fast, just with employee ID, first name, last name, we can go on launch to the whole enterprise.
Got it. Like I said, we always concentrate on that, right? People listening to this podcast are professionals, either analysts or they are directors or managers or VPs in that area. And they always want to okay, there's no free lunch. What are we going to have to support to put this on top of our current stack? So, excellent. All right, I got way ahead of myself. So let's take a step backwards. And I think just doing a little bit of research before and listening to some other podcasts that you were on, the dream of somebody maybe in our business is to do what you're doing, which is go create an app, and then maybe make that into their own business as a software as a service platform. You had a really interesting background, as I understand, goes back to doing a little programming when you were 9 or 10 years old. Does that sound right?
Exactly. I always, since I was a kid, my dream, like you just said, Troy, my dream was to have a software company, global, that it doesn't matter in which country you use the platform, you have the exactly same experience. So that was my dream since a kid, and I started to do things, to learn. I always was developing projects. I learned to code at 9. I launched my first game at 10. I got a game. We had like 3K users. I was selling premium account. So I was start developing games. Then I start developing websites, all while I was studying at college and even school. But then when I found out and the opportunity of Human, we start talking with many CHROs about which were their problems. My uncle was the CHRO of McDonald's, so that helped to discover the problems they were facing. They were, for example, if they wanted to run a survey, they have to bring paper to the retail stores, or they have to give every employee a unique code and go to the only computer in the store, put that code, answer the survey. So I saw a lot of improvements that can be done there. And we had a unique platform change. Since 2014, the smartphone became our main tool for doing everything, basically. Right now in the smartphone, we buy in Amazon, we request an Uber for a car, we make bank transactions, we buy things online. Basically, we do everything on the phone. But when you think about company internal processes, that trend was lagging behind because of adoption. But right now in 2024, we have 96 or something like that % adoption of the smartphone. Everyone has a smartphone that can download apps with a great internet connection. So for the first time, companies can think of the smartphone as an internal communication tool with their employees and the best way to reach them fast and in a friendly way. So with that platform change, we say, why don't we create the Amazon, Uber, the way to transact internal company processes? And let's start with HR. HR has a lot of processes. They do a lot of manual things. Let's simplify their life by making this all-in-one app very easily and connect with non-desk workers too.
That explains things. The connective tissue of you had somebody in your family, an uncle, who was experiencing these problems. So now it's all starting to make some sense, how you might have got exposed to that. And then the other thing that I think is interesting and a unique thing that you probably only saw because of your uncle is nobody loves HR, right? Everybody wants to go do sales and marketing and all the fun stuff. And we in HR, we always get left back in the dust. So that was a nice, happy accident. So you're developing this platform. Now, I know we've skipped a lot of steps from 10 years old up to building Human. Let's talk about when you got into Y Combinator, because that's a big deal, right? So some people that don't recognize that, Y Combinator is one of the biggest kind of incubators for entrepreneurship and startup companies really in the country, one of the most well-regarded. So that was either another happy accident, or how did that come about?
Well, since I was a kid, I also read from Y Combinator and how Y Combinator was founding the best software companies in the world, like we are talking about Airbnb, Dropbox, Reddit, the best software companies came out of YC. So when we just started Human with Hero, my partner and best friend from college, we started applying to Y Combinator. The first time we applied to Y Combinator, we had only ArcelorMittal, one customer. We got to the interview with the partner, and basically they told us, hey, you only have one customer. Prove us that you can scale this and apply again. So they rejected us. We applied again 6 months later with 4 customers. And we again went to the interview with the president of Y Combinator. And they basically told us, hey, prove us that you didn't sell to just your few friends and you can really scale this and build this big. And then we applied again with 40 customers. And then they accepted us. We joined into YC. We did our first fundraising round. We grew the team, and we invested all in product and basically go to market. And that's when we started becoming big. And right now we have more than 350 customers. We have 150 people in the team and growing 40% every quarter.
People listening to this, they're like, one company and then 4 companies and then 40, and then you get into Y Combinator. What's interesting is, believe it or not, Workday started the same way. It was a little bit different. But they came to my company when I was working for this company, RSE Equipment Rental, and they had 7 customers. My chief people officer said the same thing. You need to go get 7 companies that are not your friends. Now, that company was started by Dave Duffield, who started PeopleSoft, so a little bit different situation. But, everybody's got to get off the ground somehow that way, right? So you got to go scrap to get that first customer, then you got to make them happy, go get 4 more. But they really made you work for it sounds like.
Exactly. Nothing comes easily.
What was the biggest benefit to being in Y Combinator? Was it the networking? Did it open up other doors to customers? What was the big lever that helped you being in that program?
Well, I would say a lot. I would say I never heard anyone talking about how YC wasn't transforming to their journey. YC helped a lot with fundraising, to raising funds. We right now we have investors like the co-founder of Dropbox, the co-founder of Lyft.com, the co-founder of Vercel. We have really great funds and angel investors backing us, and the first initial exposure was YC. Those people knew us because we were at YC, and they are the same network, basically. So that's when YC helps a lot. Also, they prepare you a lot to scale as a company, to learn how to... You have like literally billion-dollar founders helping you directly to think how to think about fundraising, about building product, about building a go-to-market. So you get help from the very best people who build huge software companies.
Here's the million or maybe eventually $billion question. And I should have saved this for the speed round. We're going to do a lightning round a little bit later where I ask you some quick, more fun questions. And maybe I should have saved that for the lightning round. But let's say you could magically go back and somebody came in and they dropped all the money that you needed to get started, that unlimited checkbook, you were going to be fine. And you didn't have to give up even a quarter of what you did as far as equity. Would you take that deal, or would you still take the current deal that you have because you got all the additional knowledge and help?
I think,
and we can cut this if we can cut this if you don't want to offend your
no, of
you
course,
don't want to offend your investors.
Of course, you can't turn down unlimited money, because with unlimited money you can do so many things. We can become huge in way faster. We are here to be the next Workday, the next friendly SAP. So for achieve that vision, we need a lot of money. So having great funds supporting us and a white check for unlimited money is, of course, I wouldn't turn that down because it will accelerate our vision. But I would say that people don't take YC just for the money because it's a standard deal and it's not the best deal for the money. You go there because you know the best people, the best companies are from there because they have a really great selection process, because they are the best of the best. Like if you want to be part of the best acceleration program or the best early stage incubator, if you want to go tier 1, there's only one, and that's YC.
Entering Y Combinator, was that 4 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? Was it about when in time did you enter Y Combinator?
We were part of the winter 22 batch. So we entered into YC in December 2021.
Okay. So now, with that in mind, on one of your other podcasts, you talked about, getting the smartest people. I think it was from maybe your university campus to start helping you build the company. Was that all happening before Y Combinator or after or during, or how did that work out?
We keep hiring from our college, from the Buenos Aires Institute of Technology. I would say the best university in Argentina by far of engineering. We always hire great talent from there. But when we were just Jero and I, two people trying to build the first version of the app, we had to do it fast because ArcelorMittal was pushing us. And when we participated in a tender in ArcelorMittal at first, where we competed against Facebook Workplace, we competed against Microsoft Yammer, we competed against software factories, and we were just 2 students with no company, no logo, just a prototype. But ArcelorMittal really, really enjoyed what we presented. And they told us, hey guys, I know you are just 2 students, you have no company. You have to build what you presented in 20 days, or we will go with the runner-up of the tender. So there we have a real hurry to bring that prototype to life. And we hire the smartest peers of our university to be able to build the first version of Human in just 1 month. And we successfully did it, and ArcelorMittal was really happy about that.
No, I bet. And anytime you get the first prototype or really working version out the door, everybody's pretty excited about that. So at that point, were you still doing the work in the dorm rooms, or did the university have a little incubator space for entrepreneurs, or just let people do their work in their?
It's a very traditional university, so they didn't support entrepreneurs at all. So basically, we were coding at night from our dorms. At some point, Human was starting growing a lot. We ended up dropping out from college. Neither me or my partner, my co-founder, have college degrees. We had to drop out because Human was growing really rapidly and we need to focus on Human. And we were both convinced on what Human can become and what becoming. So basically, that was the how we did it while we were college students.
Well, I heard that and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And this is what entrepreneurs do, right? That's scrappy. You've got to deal with whatever resources you have. And I was reminded, I believe it was on a My First Million podcast. They had somebody, her name is Sarah Moore, and she was getting her MBA from Harvard, right? She had this idea that she wanted to go take over like some sort of like mom and pop business. So she founded a company called eggcartons.com. And they literally supplied egg cartons. And she said that she was getting college students as interns from the university, and then she didn't have any place to put them. So they stood up shop in the library, and nobody knew what these people were doing, in the library. here now she's built, I think, multi-tens or hundreds of millions of equity in these kind of dirty startups. But yes, very interesting what you've got to go through to get things off the ground. We got to get you out of here at the hour, and I want to make sure to get the lightning round in. So now the lightning round is primarily fun. If you want to pass on any of these questions, you certainly can just say pass. I always put some imaginary time on the clock. And then we're going to go with question number 1. As I understand, you guys may play some golf for fun or around the office when you guys do get-togethers with the company. So based on that, if you had to choose your partner for a best ball golf tournament, and they had to be someone from Argentina, and hopefully I don't kill these names, would you choose Emiliano Grillo, Ricardo Gonzalez, or Alejandro Tosti? Or you could choose someone of your choosing.
No, I would certainly pick my co-founder, Geronimo. He's a great golf player.
Really? Like, are we talking like he shoots par, or how good are we talking?
No, I mean, he is great. In my league, I'm very bad. So in comparison to me, he's great. And I learn from him. So I would pick him without a doubt.
Got it. That's good. I appreciate the loyalty. All right. Question number 2. If you had to choose one programming language to base a new software project on, what would it be?
It depends on the platform I want to build it. But if it for mobile, I would pick React Native.
React Native. See, this is why I do the podcast, because these are things I don't know. Like I put it as options like Ruby on Rails, Python, JavaScript. These are probably things that are 10 years old at this point.
Well, React Native is based on JavaScript.
Oh, it is? Okay. Well, there we go. I always say that I do the podcast because it's fun to talk to people. Also, I get a little free consulting. All right. If I decide to start my own project, I'll have that under my belt. All right. Question number 3. 3 things you would do over a weekend if you absolutely could not do any work for Humand or any other businesses.
I would probably go to a Caribbean beach, like in Mexico or Colombia, or I would go something more adventurous, like riding a horse or bungee jumping, or I would go to Disney to roller coasters, something like that.
That's some diverse activity. Well, when you sell Humand for $1 billion, you have a private plane, you can do that all in one day. Right.
I believe Humand has much more potential than that.
I'm going to dig down on Colombia. Do you have a particular beach in Colombia that you know of?
Isla Palma in Cartagena. One of the best beaches I've been in my life.
See, I knew it. So my brother got married in Cartagena 2 summers ago, and I've got kids. I just couldn't make the journey. And now, all right, next time they offer for me to go, I'm going to put that on my list of places to visit. Question number 4. Your favorite video game when you were 16?
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Now, why were you drawn to that game? Just the action? Were you able to contribute in some way, coding or?
Exactly. So my first, the game that made me learn to code was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas multiplayer. I built a game mode, an online server that got plenty of users, and that was a big motivation for me to learn into code. So I was running that server for about 3 years, and there were a lot of users from many different countries. I was earning money at 10 years old selling premium accounts in that game. So it was a really interesting part. It was a role-play server, so you simulate your life in the game. So you have your own job, your own friends, you could have your own car, your own house. It was really great.
We talked a little bit before we pressed record, and I said I was walking with my 11-year-old son, and I'm going to hang this over his head. I said, see, look what this guy was doing when he was 10 years old, right? He was earning money for the family, All right. Number 5. The final question in the lightning round. One piece of productivity software, a tool that you use that you just would not want to give up.
I would say I use a lot of productivity tools. Superhuman, the email client, is one of the best software productivity tools I use. It's way better than Gmail. It's way faster. I really like Superhuman.
And it's a full email platform, right? But it's web based.
It's web based.
And is that the one where they do make you pay a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts and things of that nature, and I hear that mentioned that that was a game changer for a lot of people. Even though you got to pay for it, they said it's so worth it.
I agree.
All right, so let's get back to Human. So I appreciate you humoring me with the lightning round questions. Those are always fun to get out there. So, like I said earlier, you were able to get me up and running on an app with a little demo count pretty quickly. And I certainly appreciate that. Of your customers, what is it that they're sold on? Is there one particular app? Because I know within Human, there's a wide variety of different functionality. Is there one or two things that it's solving that are kind of the easy sells, or the ones that they're buying it for those 2 or 3 apps and everything else is just extra?
Well, they are mainly buying the instant reach to the whole workforce, especially non-desk workforce,
Right.
because companies are tired of having multiple isolated software solutions. They have one app for requesting time off, one app for surveys, one app for onboarding, one app for chatting, one app for pay stubs. They want everything in one friendly app. So our most used modules are the internal social network, the pay stub delivery, the forms and workflow, and the intranet, like for delivering information and communication to the workers. Those are the most widely used.
All right, now I'm going to geek out as a HRIS person. So, of those, they all sound pretty cool, but the forms and workflow piece, I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm licking my chops. Now I'm like, that can solve a lot of problems. So, is it pretty customizable where I can just say, I want to run a quick survey, or, we need everybody right now to update their email address, or, I know that's a simple problem, and I can just put out a quick form to collect that data? Is that how it might work? And is that something that once somebody's bought the software, it's pretty easy for someone to learn that and push it out to the users?
Of course, it's like Google Form. We are no code. You don't need to code to use Human. You just build the form, and you can build the workflow of what happens with that form. You can request information from employees. You can make that information to update your HRIS, for example, if you use a different one. You can make that information to send a notification or an email in another system. You can solve different things. We have customers using that for payroll clarification, for requesting an advance paying the salary, for requesting a uniform, requesting a shift change, a lot of different requests, or requesting an HR letter, an employment letter, for recommending a colleague that wants to join and work for the company. They use for many different use cases the forms and workflows.
So now I'm going to get real deep. Let's say we've done this. We put a form out there because we wanted everybody to update their beneficiaries on their 401k plan or some benefit plan. So the data's on the form. It's come down. It's in Human someplace in a database. Where do I go get it? Is there an admin side to this piece? Do I pull it out through an API? Like, how do I go get that data so I can send it to my HRIS system?
Well, both of you mentioned we have an admin panel that you can quickly see the data. Just like you see answers on a Google Forms, you see answers on a human form very easily. You can export that data into a Excel or CSV file. You can pull that data through our API, or we have already connectors with dozens of HRS systems that you can automatically update that information into your HRS.
Got it. Okay. My apologies, but sometimes, you just start geeking out on, what would that look like in reality? So, no, I definitely think I understand that. You talked about kind of the messaging or kind of the social networking aspect. This is real world, right? I've worked in human resources for 25 plus years, and our biggest fear in handing over any of these tools is that somebody's going to say something nasty.
Oh, that's nasty.
On the platform, right? Or they're going to put comments in that you weren't expecting. Is there any way to police that, or do you just have to, I'll give you an example. When SuccessFactors got big initially, one of the first cool things they did is they were able to do a little bit of policing what people were putting in the performance reviews. And that was pretty, groundbreaking at the time. This was 10, 15 years ago, because you just don't know, right? Unless you're manually going and looking at every one of them, there was no good way to flag maybe he shouldn't have said that, or she, about that worker. Do you find that your customers are asking that they approve every comment that comes through, like somebody might do as a moderator on Reddit or something like that? Or how's something like that handled?
Well, that's the top one fear of every CEO or CHRO who wants to implement Human is, what would the people say if I let it open? What do they put? What do they write?
Right.
So what I always tell them is, we work with hundreds and hundreds of companies, and 90% of them have the open social wall where literally 100% of the workforce can post. We work mainly with manufacturing, retail, healthcare, logistics, restaurants companies, people who have diverse workforce from every economic background, every age. So we already have the data of hundreds of thousands of users using Human every single day. The thing is, they have their name there. They won't put anything that put their job at risk, because if they say something bad or against the company policy, it will be known who they was. So it will be only to their detriment. So they usually don't do it. One of the cases I remember that happened, that it was a picture of a raw meat on the lunch at a company. So that was a post that with a photo of a raw meat of the food service of the company at lunch, and the HRO answered very kindly, "Hey, thank you for your report. We will work to replace the food service at lunch. Thank you very much for bringing this into light." So I always say giving voice to the collaborators is good, and we haven't seen any bad case of people, because they would put their job at risk. So they don't have the incentive to do it, and they don't do it. We have the data of hundreds of thousands of users every single day.
Well, yes, I can see that. Like being in human resources, you always, honestly, the worst cases are always the most fun to talk about. So maybe that's why I've got a lot of memories of, what that looked like. I know we've got to get you out of here in about 7 or 8 minutes. This is a little bit related. So do you find that companies value a social network that the only thing going on is company business versus, I don't know if you find that maybe companies have tried to use a Facebook group on the public Facebook platform to do a little bit of communication, and then that blows up because they find out, well, once you put somebody onto Facebook, right, they're getting notifications and pings from friends from high school and college and everything else that's distracting them. Do people see that as a big benefit to just say, it's a social app on the work phone, but it's just work-related stuff?
Exactly. That when you never want to mix the personal life and the work life, because when you send a notification, you are distracting the employee. The data is mixed between personal data and work-related data. So when the employee change company, they can, or change job, or they can keep companies' sensitive data on their phone. You don't want that. So you want a 100% app for work, where all work interactions happen there, only for work. And if the employee leaves the company, they lose the access and they don't keep any of the company data. That's what you want. So that's for that reason you don't mix platforms that mix personal and work life, because there the employee can have things that take the focus out, and you don't want that as a company.
We totally get that. One thing we talked about a little bit, this has come up kind of, I think things here are going to be very evergreen, so people will get a lot out of this whenever you're listening to it. But as I understand, and this made Human make a lot more sense to me, is that you've been competing a little bit with Facebook Workplace. There's a lot of similar functionality. But then as I understand, Facebook Workplace has decided no longer to be a software platform. Do I have that right?
Exactly. So basically, Facebook Workplace has always been a big inspiration for us. We always said we have to build, they did an amazing work at the internal communication tool. We almost copy them. That's the reason we are the most identical internal communication software to Workplace in the whole world, I would say, because we base our entire internal communication part on Facebook Workplace. But we are a company just focusing on our product. Facebook Workplace was a tiny business unit inside of Facebook, and that's the reason they kill it. We are full life focused on this product. We are already becoming a big company with 150 employees. We are growing 40% every single quarter. We are migrating a lot of different customers from Workplace to Human. We have a public success case with the video of the CHRO of Miniso talking about the migration, the benefit. They did it in just 3 weeks. They migrated from Workplace to Human. They bring all the data. They bring everything. And it was a really smooth process. So, Facebook Workplace is a great tool. Sadly, it's gone. But we are here to recognize all those customers that are left behind. And we are here to make a smooth and seamless transition into Human, respecting their economic terms, all the previous data, and helping them do a successful migration.
Got it. And you said you've already done a couple of those?
Exactly.
Migrations?
Every day we are receiving requests.
Well, I don't want anybody to fail, but, bad for them sounds like good for you, right? That, you just happen to have a product that they're going to leave behind, and you're going to be able to fill their shoes in a lot of places. I know we got to get you out of here. 3 minutes left. 2 things. Number one, could you give us maybe your best tip or advice for somebody that maybe was in your shoes entering college and had dreams of creating a software product or something in this space to market to the world? What would you say to them?
I would say if it's your dream life, go do it. And it will be hard. It's a life choice because building a startup and fast growing company takes a lot from you. So you have to dedicate a lot of resources, a lot of time. It's full life. But if it's your dream, it's the only alternative you see for yourself. Or if you don't do it, you can't breathe. You should follow that path. And I would say take risk, because the one who don't take risk with your money, with your time, putting everything behind an idea, and nothing comes up easily or fast. Like, we have been like 2.5 years building Human, and which we had just 1 or 2 customers, and we were building the product, and then we started growing. But it's a long way, and you have a 3-year period where you don't know if it will work or not, but you have to keep going, and things will get clear as you work on the idea. Always validate with customer fast, build the fastest version you can, bring it in front of customers, get feedback, listen to your customers, serve them better than anyone else, do anything to make them happy, get their feedback, build what they want, and you will be successful.
We'll get you out of here on this one. I know you guys are open for business in the United States and are moving pretty aggressively here. If we have, I would say, primarily a US-based HRIS audience. So if somebody hears about your platform, or they're using Facebook Workplace and need a replacement and want to start getting to know more about you, where would you send them for either your information in particular, or for to get more information about Human?
They can check out our website, human.co. They can schedule a demo. They can write me on LinkedIn. I'm Nicolas Benezon. I'm open to helping anyone trying to learn more about our software. And if you were a workplace customer, we understand you. We have empathy for you, and we are here to help you as quickly as possible. And anyone from the HRS community that are curious about HR tech, or they really want to know what's the latest technology at HR, check us out, because we were building this for many years, and it's great.
All right. And last time, because it is HRIS Careers, are there any jobs you're trying to fill now, or hard things, or what's a hot skill set that you're looking for, even for your company? Is it people in sales? Is it people in development?
We have more than 60 open job positions. We are hiring everything. We are hiring engineers, salespeople, people from partnership, alliances, marketing, customer onboarding, customer success.
Right.
Exactly.
Got it. Nico Benezon, I really appreciate you being on the show. The show notes will be packed on this one, so all the contact points, everything we talked about will be in there. But again, really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Thank you very much, Troy. It was a great time. I send a big hug to everyone out there.
To the HRIS Careers community, we'll see you next time.
Here we go.